First Facebook Live I've done or been on.
All right, we're live now, but I'm gonna
You're
try.
already live?
Yeah, but I'm gonna try to get the camera where it looks right.
Well, you need to video this stuff here.
I think it's good. Let me check it on the other phone and make sure it looks good. Anybody who's watching already, we're just getting set up. We'll be getting started here in just a minute.
Looks like you got 36 of them in here.
Yeah, some of those are done. Some of them are almost done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Get this. To anyone watching, we are just about to get started. We're just getting the camera position right and all that. Just bear with us. Okay, I think the orientation is right. Y'all let us know if the orientation is wrong. I think I changed it to landscape, but I just wanted to make sure. Sit down for a minute, Brother
Sure.
Doyle, just so I can make sure it's
Sure.
got us in a good position. Yeah, I think this is going to work.
All right.
Let's see
Well,
here.
You'll be able to see that online too, right?
All right. Let's see here. Make sure I can. I got my other phone with me to anybody watching, so we can make sure that it looks good. It's gonna work. Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay.
All right.
Are you going to show your backpacks first?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I will. Look at the introduction and all that. I think so far we got the orientation's good. All right. Hello and welcome to Highways of Home Ministries. Sorry for all the chaos for the first 2 or 3 minutes. We've never done one like this before. Usually I have the phone right in front of me like this when we're on live. So this is sort of new to set the camera up, away from me and do it like this. But we had Brother Doyle here in person, so it made more sense to set it up on the tripod. So I'm going to try to watch the comments on my personal phone and just see if you guys are telling us we need to change anything. Just let us know, and I'll try to check them on here every few minutes and see. So because I can't see them obviously right now. But we're very happy to have you. This is our monthly Live with Brethren segment, which we have a playlist for on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel. Once a month, we sit down with one of the brethren on a live stream for about an hour and just kind of talk to them about their life and their testimony and what they're involved in for the gospel, just to introduce the audience to some people who are actively involved in world evangelism and who have really interesting testimonies of what God's done in their life. So if you look behind us, you'll see some of these backpacks. What these actually are is the Highways of Home homeless care packages, which Brother Doyle has tremendously helped with, and many people have. And these have things like food, water, socks, gloves, hand sanitizer, toothbrush, toothpaste, all sort of things. They have a lot of stuff in there. We pack them as full as we can with all kind of things that they need. And we go out from time to time and just find people on the side of the road and give them out. And on occasion, we'll find a little area where there's a bunch of folks living together, and we'll give out a bunch at a time. There's actually a place near downtown Athens that we visited twice. We've given out around 10, 15 book bags each time that we visited there. So we're in the middle, as you can see, of putting together a new set of these, and hopefully in the next couple of weekends we'll get all these passed out. We're starting to do about 25 of these a month. So if you'd like to contribute, please reach out to us after this, and I'll let you know what we need and what's available and that kind of thing. But we appreciate all the help that we can get on that. We're really trying to do something good. 100% of all donations goes to the homeless. Brother Tim and I and anybody here at the ministry does not keep any of it. We're just trying to help folks. That's our objective. So if you want to be a part of that, you're more than welcome to.
About how much did you have in each bag?
I haven't sat down and actually calculated it, but probably $25 to $30 a bag.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Yeah, probably
They
25 to 30
seem
bucks.
Yeah.
Which is, in my mind, is better than just giving $30 to somebody. Unfortunately, homeless people, because of their circumstances, develop bad habits and addictions and things, and so we're trying to supply them with things that they need in life and things they might need to go to a job interview and just to kind of get in better shape without giving them the opportunity to make more bad decisions. So it's sort of a tight rope to walk, but we're doing our best because those people have need of a lot of things like water and clean socks and stuff. So once again, if you'd like to help with that, it's going to be an ongoing thing. This segment is all about introducing Brother Doyle Lightfoot. He has been such a tremendous help to me and to the ministry. Before we started Highways of Home, we got started in August of last year. And before we started, I had been working personally on some other ministry-related things under the Reverend George Leon Pike stuff. We have, the Facebook page and the YouTube channel, both called Reverend George L. Pike Quotes and Fellowship. And then we have GeorgeLeonPike.com, which is all the same thing. And what it is It was my effort as a grandson to make my granddad's ministry available, to distribute the literature and put up quotations and just let people know, what it was that he taught, what it was that he believed, so it could be available. And Brother Doyle Lightfoot got involved about the time that we started the YouTube channel. And my granddad's tapes were sort of scattered. There was 3 in this guy's closet and 4 on this person's table, and there was no central location. And because of that, unfortunately, many of them are probably lost to time. But we were trying to accumulate as many as we can and just make them available and put them in one place where people can find them. So Brother Doyle helped me tremendously on the YouTube channel to collect and upload, and he did 100% of all the work. I was going to say 99%, but it's really more like 100% of all the work on the YouTube channel. And because of that, we have well over 100 videos right now available for free to watch on there. They're ad-free. They're just there for you. Over 100 of them. They range from sermons here at the church in Monroe to sermons overseas to just fellowship with the brethren. There's a multitude of stuff on there to get you introduced to the ministry and the teaching.
It's a snowball fight.
A snowball fight. We do have a snowball fight.
You see a lot of sides of things.
So please visit Reverend George Leon Pike, Senior Quotes and Fellowship on YouTube and watch some of that stuff. That's some of Brother Doyle's labor in the Lord and just a very small amount of it. In Highways of Home, he does a lot of our video editing for us. As you know, we release every weekend a ministry video that's 10 to 20 minutes long, where we just kind of go through a couple of scriptures and talk about what the Lord's been dealing with us and try to encourage you. And Brother Doyle has edited, if not every one, then almost every one of those videos.
Well, you do the heavy lifting.
He's done the intros, the outros, and he just helps so much, and I feel like that he never gets a chance to get recognized. So I wanted to bring him on and just glorify him a little bit. So,
okay.
Brother Doyle, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure.
And then we'll get into some specific questions, but just how you doing right now?
Pretty good. Christian said I look pretty tired. I guess I am. I've been up a little bit, praying about all our situation at hand, because things are pretty dire in a lot of ways. So I've been doing that.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just ramble through my life?
Well, yeah, let's kind of start at a certain place. Tell us a little bit about when you were younger, how you came to the Lord.
Yeah. Okay.
And just some of the experiences that you had, maybe on to when you met Papaw,
Okay. I was raised up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We were, went to the private school and the whole deal, old time. My mom was Seventh-day Adventist. Apparently a tent meeting came through Savannah, Georgia, way back in the day, and that got our family involved in that. And so I was raised up there until Mom died at 12, and things kind of changed. Dad was kind of a backslid Baptist, so he took us to church a little bit, and then we fell away, and then I was got involved in music. I just wanted to be like Eric Clapton, basically, so totally got away from it, and that led to, a secular lifestyle, whatever, the music, the drugs, or whatever, and until I kind of was hitting a dead end with the whole thing. And at 19 years old, I got reminiscent about things. I got seeing bad car wrecks and people would witness to me and different things like that. And the Lord just got on my trail. So I got on my knees. Christian said his experience was sort of similar. There wasn't anybody around. I wasn't in church, didn't do any of that kind of stuff. Just got on my knees and I started praying. And I started really pouring out my heart to God. And the Lord, reached down and did something for me, and I, dug out a Bible from somewhere and started reading the words and read, because I knew that was Jesus, and then started just talking to people and going from that, and then of course it was a lot of people were kind of tore up. It's kind of like people were having my funeral, because I played music, oh, did you hear about Doyle? Oh man, he got religion. Oh man, that's so sad. I'm sorry to hear that. It was kind of that kind of a thing,
I had a similar experience.
So I wandered around and went back to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, for a little while, and I was telling Christian I even had that one experience where I thought, I know I did. I believe I did. I saw an angel, it had an encounter there. It was kind of unusual, and but after about 3 or so years, at 22 and a half, just say, about 22, I had a buddy that had met somebody from Little Bethlehem, from Christian's granddad's church, Winston Fontaine, and so my buddy that I worked with wanted to go up there, but he didn't want to go alone, so I accompanied him. And that particular night we didn't meet Brother George or anything, but I encountered like a depth or sense of love that I'd never witnessed in any kind of congregation anywhere. You know, I've been visiting all the churches around Atlanta, you know, downtown and Lilburn and all over, you know, just kind of looking. And I was actually like a minister of music at what was the beginnings of a church in Stone Mountain area, you know, kind of a charismatic kind of a thing, linked up with people in California. And but when I met Brother George, when I met his granddad, it's like I've never encountered anybody like that. And it's kind of hard to describe because it's just like, you know, you're coming into the presence of somebody that's different, you know. And there was a humility and a depth that I never experienced anywhere before. And so I had been kind of studying and trying to understand things, you know. I've kind of run into a brick wall with my churches and my religious experience. And so I was reading books, you know, apologetic books, you know, trying to understand things. And the thing, of course, that's all Trinitarian world, and that's all I knew, you know. So I was trying to understand that, you know. Then when I met Brother George, I realized it was different than the way that they taught it, you know. That it is a Trinity, but it's a Trinity in a oneness, and in a different fashion that they teach, and it really all kind of heads up. In Jesus' name, baptism is where you really see it. You know, that's where it becomes really evident. You know, because they teach that there's three persons, and there's not three persons. You know, so and there's many scriptures, and Brother George was so able to thoroughly furnish a person, you know, where there was no doubt. And it's a revelation, so once it's revealed to you, that's the doubt dissolver. You never question it again, you know. I mean, you have no reason to, you know. But, you know, you see the scriptures about whatever you do in word or deed, you know, it's baptism and deed, you know, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus. You know, even calling upon the name of the Lord it actually involves baptism too. You know, you don't hear that a lot, you know, but it's just calling upon the name of the Lord, you'll be saved. That's actually linked to baptism as well. You know, you hear people talk about the Great Commission, but you didn't hear people talk too much about the Great Remission. And that's because Matthew 28:19 ties in with Acts 2:38. And all those scriptures, they tie in and they link, and they're not contradictory. You know, there's not contradictions in the scriptures, especially those, you know. Once you understand it, you know, they fit perfectly together.
Yeah, the perceived contradiction is an unfortunate consequence of so many ministers and so many organizations teaching it wrong all these years. It's created what is evidently a contradiction, but just in the minds of people who got to a teaching before they got to the scriptures. You know, they got to some doctrinal decision of some group or some organization or some man before they got to the scriptures themselves. So by the time they got to the scriptures, their mind was already affected. You know, if you took a person and stranded them on a desert island and wiped their brain and gave them a Bible, they'd come up with Jesus' name baptism.
It seems obvious to me now, but it sure didn't then. You know, it was a big cloud. You know, you wading through the deep waters, as the song goes. You know,
and that's a very controversial subject. There's a lot of churches that split in a bunch of groups of people that won't fellowship, and a bunch of foolishness that goes on over that.
Well, it allowed me to understand who's got at least the first part sort of correct. And you know, it just made a huge difference between the understanding of a carnal understanding and actually somebody that's got a revelation and understood it right. So anyway, of course, I was declared a cult, you know, by all people that I was associated with, you know. And I was a little young and overzealous as well, you know, so part of it would probably be my fault, you know. But that's just part of the program, I guess, you know.
So you were about 22, you said, when you met Papaw.
I was.
So tell us about the first time you met him, how your experience was. Because I know you said it affected you.
Well, yeah, it was just interesting because I'd give like $30. I'd give $30 to his ministry. And I never thought anything about it. And I met him, and like I said, there was such a humility and such an understanding and such a depth there. And he said, yeah, you know, you're the guy that did give $30 or whatever. And I couldn't even believe he would know that, you know. I mean, like, that's such an insignificant thing, you know, but he noticed all the details, you know. He was very, very detail oriented as well. And, you know, some of my friends wanted to talk to him and confront him, and they did, you know, and came and met with him, just trying to straighten him out, you know.
Yeah.
And after 2 or 3 hours, they were kind of like the dog with the tail tucked down between their legs, you know, when they lived, you know.
Yeah, that was trying to straighten him out. That was the wrong decision.
But the depth of understanding was unsurpassed. I mean, to me, I've never encountered in my life a greater man, a greater person, a greater understanding ever. You know, it's just the best. It was the most incredible, and obviously, you know, people took offense. You know, and he was a hard preacher. He was if you sat under Brother George, you know, he would tell you how it was, and he didn't pull any punches, and that's something I appreciate because, you know, with current events like they are now, they want to stifle your free speech, you know, basically. And Brother George wouldn't hold any punches, you know. We'd let it go.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that. One thing about Brother Doyle Lightfoot is Brother Doyle's kind of interested in the political world. You know, he thinks about it and kind of watches it.
Oh, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. But it's like they cram all that stuff down your throat, you know.
Well, the reason I was bringing it up, you know, Papaw, you know, wasn't a person, very seldom did he comment on politics. He would comment on whether he thought a leader was straight or not straight, but he sort of stuck to, you know, the other side of life. Well,
he did comment on it, though.
Yeah, I know on occasion he did. That's the whole reason I was bringing it up, was when you read through a book that he wrote, that he released in '77 called Spiritual Conquest, he talks about a lot of allegoric things as far as what he thinks things represent in the earth. And one thing specifically that he talks about that I think some of the current events had to do with is he talks about how he felt like the outer courts were symbolized by Europe and the United Nations. And the inner courts were symbolized by America, and the Holy of Holies was symbolized by Washington, D.C. And I was even thinking about when Trump was elected, leaving New York or leaving the inner courts to come into the holiest of all there in D.C. I thought it was very significant. Mm-hmm. And with these protesters the other day storming the Capitol like they did, and all those people being present, you had the smoke bang grenades, you had this mist ascending up off the Capitol with this ocean of people. And I thought about all these people, you know, there in the Holy of Holies. It says that when Jesus died, that the veil of the temple was rent in twain and that access was granted to all the believers to go into the holiest place. And I was thinking about, you know, Trump being crucified by the media in a symbolic way. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, all these Americans at the Capitol, and with the flashbang grenades going off, this smoke is ascending off the Capitol, showing that vapor, the type of the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was very interesting. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
You know, I hadn't really considered that, to be honest with you. I hadn't thought about that. But I do remember Brother George talking about America being gone, even back in '81 when I went there, you know. And there was even some interesting things that took place formalizing that, so to speak. Stuff that... papers that were signed and things like that were probably gotten rid of because it could have been a problem. But yeah, he spoke quite a bit about things like that, you know, from time to time, you know. But like you say, Brother George stood for the truth. You know, whatever the truth was, that's what he stood for. That's what he tried to protect and represent, you know, as far as that, you know.
Yeah, I just thought it was fascinating. You know, I reread through the book the other day, and I was just reminded of some of that stuff. And I remember when he was elected, I thought it was so significant with his wife coming from Europe and him coming from New York, and then both of them going into Washington, D.C. I thought that the allegory was just startling. Mm-hmm. And then the other day when I was watching the protest, and I saw that smoke ascending off the Capitol steps, I just thought, it's a striking image.
Yeah.
Because it's so strange, because literally 14 days or something like that before Joe Biden was going to stand right there and take the oath of office, there's flashbang grenades going off right where his feet are going to stand 2 weeks early. Yeah. And I'm like, man, this is a very historic moment. And not just that, but to see this, like Papa would say that, you know, waters were people, and to see this sea of people flood into the holy place right around the Capitol, and all of a sudden smoke is ascending off the Capitol. I was like, man, this is amazing. To me, it's just such a striking image. And I just know that you follow some of that stuff, and I just didn't know if you thought about that.
No, I really hadn't thought about that, to be honest with you. I was just trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. Oh, me too, really.
Because you're not told, you're not told that you have to dig for information to try to figure it out, basically what it is now.
I want to ask you about music also. Doyle's a musician. Anybody who knows him knows that. He's an extremely proficient guitar player, and he plays several other instruments as well. And just tell us about how you got started with music and some of the stuff that music had helped you do for the Lord over the years.
Sure. Mom wanted me to play an instrument when I was a kid. This would have been in the 60s. It was way back there. And I could pick whatever I wanted, And of course I was captivated by the songs of the 60s, Creedence and Eric Clapton and all this stuff. So I wanted to do that. So that's the direction I started going. Taking a few lessons here and there. Mom had cancer, so take a while, and then she got worse, and we quit, and then maybe go back or whatever. So did a little bit of that. So then, when I got converted at 19, I'm like, man, I don't know what to do now. I played rock and roll all my life, and stuff, and all this. So eventually I got into the contemporary Christian of the late 70s and stuff.
Yeah.
Then when I met Brother George, that wasn't really going to fly, So he didn't really care for that, and some of my music he didn't care for too much. No, he didn't care for it. But they listened to a lot of Southern gospelish, country gospelish, whatever. And what Brother George said that he really liked was what he called sacred music and stuff. And Brother George was quite the singer-songwriter himself. It was phenomenal. He wrote thousands of songs, I guess.
Actually, our ministry is named after one of his songs. Highways of Home is, me and Brother Tim Ledbetter actually named the ministry after a song that Papa wrote called Highways of Home.
That's on the Pikes album, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that song, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped to record that album. That was in '94. That particular album. That's probably the first. I'd go and play bass or play some guitar at some events or whatever, but I really didn't do anything in church. But it was more like going out and playing. But then when that came up,
what year was that?
The recording was '94.
Okay. Where
we recorded it, probably was put out a little later.
Okay.
But and of course, Brother George passed in '96. So and it was all dedicated to him. All the songs were written by him, as far as I recall. There was one right. They didn't have the melody to, so they just made that up. Put a thing to it. I got the greatest compliment from Brother George from that album. And I really would have liked to see certain things go different on that album, because a lot of our time where we could have done some overdubs was kind of cut out because of certain other things that were involved. Nonetheless, he loved I did a little bit of nylon string guitar work on Thy Will Be Done. Yeah. I think, or Forgive and Forget. No,
yeah, and there's also some
beautiful
finger picking at the beginning of
really?
Happy Years. Happy Years.
Okay. I don't recall.
There's several of those that have a beautiful intro to them,
Yeah. Well, it was pretty basic, I was thinking, but he liked that nylon string. In fact, he didn't know who played it, And man, I felt like I won a Grammy when he got to bragging on me for that. I thought, man, this is just like I won an award, man,
Yeah.
So that was a great thing and such. So I was tickled to do that, and then played when different people had the church, David or whatever, played some for that, and got involved in some other projects. Dale and Sharon Dale had done at least one or two, whatever it was, and a few. I've worked on and off with Gracie, really more like demo or behind the scenes with stuff. And she's a great songwriter as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Got really a tremendous anointing in her stuff. So I've done that. Lately, I've been playing locally. Because I hate not to play, you want to kind of keep current stuff.
Brother Pat, we love all those songs too. I actually keep that album in my car at all times. And y'all let us know how the volume is and how the camera position is. I'm trying to watch the comments here as we go.
They can ask questions if they like.
Yeah, if you guys want to ask questions, we do live questions. This is a new format for me, so I'm kind of getting used to it. I did want to, one thing specifically was, after Brother Doyle had met Papaw and decided to start being a part of Little Bethlehem and what was going on out there, his family put him through something that's real crazy. And I'd like to hear...
Well, also, I spent a lot of time at the boats. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that too.
The 2 boats, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that. I think people would find that interesting.
Okay, yeah, that was interesting. When I got married, the girl that I married was a preacher's daughter, and there were a couple preachers
Thank you, James.
in the family. And they actually had in mind to put her through a what you could think of as an intervention or whatever. It was called a deprogramming session or whatever. And they already had in mind to do that. And then she got married, so they just incorporated me into the whole mix. So, I wonder what year that was. It was been 1988. It was coming up on our 1 year anniversary and all the.
That was in '88.
Yeah, it was in 1988. Yeah.
That's unreal.
So they called something like 1-800-CULT hotline or something or whatever. And basically, the one fellow, my father-in-law, he took out a second mortgage on the house, and then they got people to contribute from the family, and they, rather than kidnapping, they had us to go to a different area, Enticement or whatever, to a fishing village that was out of season, Edisto River, up there in South Carolina, and it was for our 1 year anniversary. It was 1 week before that, actually, and I think I just announced to him that my ex-wife was with child and all that kind of stuff, so we're fixing to have a little one. And so we spent the night, and then the next night we're ready to go, and somebody comes over to talk to us. And we talk. I talked for a while, testify, talk about the scriptures or whatever it was, and that went on for a while. And then I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to go. Got to go to work tomorrow, and all that kind of stuff. This was Sunday, afternoon, 10 o'clock or 12 or whatever it was. I don't know. And he said, well, I really want to talk to you some more, and I talked to him a little more. I really want to talk to you some more. I said, oh, man, I'm going to have to go. We'll do it another time or whatever it was, And I don't know exactly. It's been so long. I wrote all this stuff down. I don't remember how it all transpired, but then maybe another person had come up by then or whatever. And eventually I look out of the window and I see the hood of the car up. I'm like, oh, man. And I went ballistic, kind of at the time, and I started realizing, and they started telling me that they were going to, restrain us or whatever, and they were prepared to do whatever they needed to do, that they had certain information they wanted us to go through.
Let me clarify for the audience. He's saying that they lured him and his wife into a house and then refused to let them leave.
Yeah.
And said that they would have to watch certain information and stay there for so long and restrain them against their will. His family, his in-laws, right?
Yeah. It ended up being five people. One of them was a humongous, like a football player, but he was on the minor leagues or whatever you call it before they go to the real deal. One guy was supposed to be a judo or karate guy and all this stuff. Well, Margaret was pregnant. I didn't want to do something. I didn't want to do something that was going to cause a problem, because your granddad would talk about that. When a woman is pregnant, you don't want to mark the child, and stuff. So after about a day or so of going nuts and fussing or whatever, I just said, okay, let's see what you got. Basically, it was really kind of funny in a sense, because once that happened, it was the same stuff I'd already studied. Yeah. It was the Walter Martin apologist.
I thought you were going to get reconvinced.
Like Kingdom of the Cults, man. That was one of my books that I read a good bit of. So, but they had us to watch videos, like on the neo-Nazis or whatever, the religious people that train in the woods and got the military thing going on. A bunch of videos about Jim Jones and all this stuff, and they're just planting seeds, So we go through all that, and they said, you can eat whatever you want. We'll get you steak, lobster, whatever you want. And I started fasting. I didn't eat a whole lot. I might have ate a little bit here and there. And the people, the in-laws were in the other area mostly. So we were in one part of the house and watching these videos, and I was mostly debating with this guy that turned out to find out he was a very intellectual, probably Catholic guy, is what I think he said, The other guys were keeping watch, and basically even at night when we go to sleep, they swept the room, kept the 24-hour guard with the door open partially, so that we couldn't find a weapon in there or whatever, So it did get crazy. So anyway, I watched all their stuff, and This went on for right close to a week. The whole thing was a week, but toward the last day or so, it culminated in a debate between Dr. William Martin and Cal Beisner, who are two authorities, in the apologetics or whatever you call it, being apologists. They were superior knowledge in that world, whatever, supposedly these Trinitarian guys, and they had understanding of the Greek and all this kind of stuff, it would appear, and so they were debating with like a UPC guy, maybe two UPC guys, whatever they were, something like that, I don't know, I don't remember those other guys' names. And what they did, this was kind of funny, because what they did is they slanted something. William Martin and Cal Beisner, they said this is what this means. They interpreted it, so to speak,
right,
to say that the scriptures were saying something they weren't saying. And I was able to, going through meticulously through it somehow, to catch that. And I remember what it was. It was Granville Sharp's second rule of Greek grammar. As far as what that said or did, now I can't recall what all the details were. But basically, what it amounted to is the Lord let us defeat them, is what it amounted to.
Yeah.
And so after that, hey, game over. And the guy basically said, well, you're like a wild horse I couldn't catch, basically you're hopeless in one sense. We can't do anything. So the funny thing about it is when they were let us go, just say after it was over, they let us go, we're driving home and it's in the evening, that stuff starts torquing your head, because you've been in the heat of battle.
Right.
You've been in this great confrontation, and you get out, it's like, whoosh, and you're driving down the road looking in your rearview mirror, I wonder if they're following us. And this goes on not just then, but days later, because this is before cell phones and beepers.
Well, also you had every reason to believe they were following you. These people just kidnapped you.
Well, it was really not technically kidnapping, but it's the same idea.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That's got to be a
weird.
real gray area.
But back then, I'd go to work and I'd come in, and if it was getting dark, 6 o'clock in the winter or something like that, and my family wasn't there, it would just, it'd really work on your brain, man. It'd work on your head. So that was an unusual experience. That was something else. But all things work together for the good to them that love the Lord, And
well, tell us some of the stuff that happened at the boat. I wanted to ask you about the boat also. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I forgot about it.
Yeah, and actually 1982.
Let me lay a foundation here. Yeah. To anybody who doesn't know, my granddad, during the time in his ministry at Little Bethlehem, had purchased, 2 separate ships on different occasions? Mm-hmm. And Brother Doyle was sent to work on them. They were planning the ships for some sort of benevolence or ministry work, I believe. I don't know all the details. Yeah. But that's what he's talking about, is that he was sent down there to work on
This right here is basically what one of the things.
Yeah, helping the needy. He wanted to use the boats to distribute goods to the needy. But anyways, I'm sorry, go on.
No, that's exactly right. He actually bought the boat, the first one, probably in 1981. It was an old Canadian subchaser, built in 48 or maybe in the 50s, I think. I used to know all the history of it because I stayed on it so long. I lived on it about 3 or so years on that particular boat, 17 feet wide, 93 foot long, so you call it a boat, but it's really right at being a ship, as far as that. And they had navigated it out a few times, and David could tell you some great stories about some of that, But they came into Apalachicola, and things kind of worked to where they stayed there for a little while. I went down, me and my friend went down to kind of help Brother Atlee, basically. And Brother Atlee, we felt terrible, man. He didn't have a car, He was just kind of doing things the best that he could at the time, so we stayed down there, and ended up down there quite a bit, pretty much permanently. My friend left, and I stayed down there. Different crews would come back and forth to work. I wasn't much of a worker, but I became, I guess, your father-in-law would say chief cook and bottle washer,
Oh, yeah.
I would do that, and I was a good gopher. I'd go get materials and keep them supplied a lot, so I did a lot of that. So it was interesting in this sense too. A lot of times he would have me to go down and I'd write checks. Man, and I seen checks go through. He spent $5,000 a week, which is a lot of money at that particular time in 1982 or whatever. And man, I don't even know how he covered it, really. But it worked, He didn't bounce checks and all that kind of stuff, And a lot of that, some of that I run through my checking account at the time, the way that we were picking up materials and stuff, But anyway, so I was there 2 or 3 years. The boats got moved around a few times, used in different ways a few times. I got involved in track crusades and stuff down there in Apalachicola. Brother George would laugh.
That's in North Florida, Apalachicola.
Yeah, and Panhandle. I had this bag that my grandmother had made me that I had for school. I'd load it, man. I'd load it with tracks. And then they'd have this festival once a year, and I'd get in the end of the line and I'd be passing out tracks as hard as I could go, man. Digging out of that bag and passing them out, and I'd tell Brother George about it. He'd get chuckle, he'd chuckle and laugh. It was so funny, it was cool. He had an incredible sense of humor. If you ever really got to know him, he was a very, very, very fascinating, funny, and interesting person. So anyways, then I ended up also in Vicksburg, Mississippi for about a year, and Galveston, Texas for that could have been close to a year. Altogether, I spent close to 6 years on the boats, two boats. The other boat came from a ministry in Tennessee. It's called the Martyrian.
That was the bigger one, wasn't it?
Bigger one.
Yeah.
It was 36 feet wide and about 136 long. So it was a good bit bigger. It belonged to another ministry. It was called the Martyrian, and Brother George didn't change the name of that. The first boat was called the Cormorant, which is the bird, an unclean bird, pretty much. And Brother George changed it to the Snow White Dove. So there's many a story that I have from numbers of experiences, about that.
That's fascinating to me. I've told so many people that as Papa's grandson, of course, I was 5 and a half when he passed away. I didn't know him in the flesh, and then Dad, didn't raise us really around a lot of the people that were involved with him, so I hadn't heard a lot of the stories. And once I got converted, which was around the same age that you did, actually, all of a sudden I was fascinated.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn who this person was.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was so interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the First Baptist Church down the street. It was something much more special than that.
Totally different. Yeah.
And so I've been fascinated. So just getting this stuff on the record for people like me who didn't have the opportunity to know him in the flesh.
Oh yeah.
It means a lot, And I also, not even just him, I think the world of the brethren. When me and Tammy first got married, I started working in the prison ministry with Michael Beachy and them. They have a couple different prisons that they're into at the time. I think it might have been just one, but I'm not sure. But I started going to the prisons. I was still pretty wet behind the ears. I guess I still am. But I'd go to the prison with them and be there, and sometimes I'd testify, and sometimes
I went to some of those first in whatever you call them, the first times where Brother George went to some of the prison ministries.
Okay.
And I can't recall if he went to Coffee County or not. I think maybe
that's the first one I went to.
That's the first one I went to.
Yeah.
Or one of the first. And then for a while we did sort of a circuit up here closer. But I have been in some of that with him, and it was incredible to hear him. And one of the most interesting things to me about Brother George was when he would talk to different people, because he was such a superb communicator. So if a Brother Branham person came, Lamar Couch, I think was his name, I would watch him talk to this man, and man, it was fascinating the way that Brother George could bring things out and click and relate to this man, and then tie it into things happening right now. Brother Atlee came from the Amish background. When we were at the boat, before I actually stayed on the boat in 82, this was 81, Brother Atlee went and talked to some of the Amish people down there and got Brother George to go and speak with them and stuff. So I witnessed that, I went to that, and it was fascinating because these people you think of as being primitive, but Brother George was able to get in the mind of the Lord and would bring out even scientific things to these people. He talked about, the splitting of the atom, fission and fusion, and all these different things. And you would think there would be no way he would be communicating that to these people, but he did, and he would say certain things, and it was incredible. It was incredible to watch him. The wisdom that he used when he spoke to people and stuff was amazing. So that was fascinating. I had a lot of fascinating experiences, and really, that was within 15 years. All of that, from like 81 to 96. Technically, I came in 80, but late, like December, last of December or something.
That's fascinating. I haven't really worked as hard as I should have, but for the last couple of years, I've wanted to put together a detailed timeline of his life and experiences.
Yeah.
And I will finish that one day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It just tells how old he was, where he had this vision, where he had this experience. So people who are interested in the ministry can learn more about him as a person because, in my opinion, some of the most interesting things that ever happened to him happened before he ever came to Little Bethlehem. And you don't hear a lot about that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think it's interesting sometimes because he was so developed as a minister by the time that he got there in 70, and he started building the church and building the brotherhood, that you don't know a lot about how he got there. And the stories of him in the 50s and 60s are fascinating. You know, him going out to Nebraska as a young man to pastor a church in the middle of a hayfield, you know, and all this kind of stuff, and then having the supernatural experiences that he did in Mississippi and in Florida. You know, so much of that, that's one of the reasons I created the George L. Pike Facebook page a few years ago on the website, was because I was like, man, somebody has to hear about this stuff.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember the first time I ever heard him tell the story about when the angel put the ring on his finger, the Lord put the ring on his finger. And I've listened to it now, I think, in 3 different messages and transcribed it twice, and I'm very well versed in it now. But the first time I ever heard that, I remember stopping the tape and just thinking, wow.
Did you ever find that vision about basically the end of the world with the Uncle Sam?
I haven't found it on tape yet. I haven't found it yet, but when I do, I'll transcribe
I
it.
came across the date on that somewhere. Might have been in an old Harvester Herald or something. That's a fascinating vision.
I'd like to get that. Yeah, I'd like to get that.
You know, one of the things, Brother George being the songwriter that he was and loving, one of the groups he loved was the Rambos. The Rambos was in that vision. I remember a record flipped up to him, and it was a Rambos record. And it turned out in the early 90s that one of the brethren ended up getting a job, and we actually worked for Buck and Dottie Rambo. And some of the grandkids, their 2 grandkids were there, which were very young. I mean, they're like... Your father-in-law, I remember, he painted this door, doing the work on it, and one of them kids grabbed the door, was swinging on the door with one hand on each side and one leg on each side, had paint all over them, you know. And they were just little folks, you know. It was probably as big as your little girl, about that size, you know. So that was funny.
I did want to mention also, we have a once a month men's meeting for Highways of Home, which we usually have on the Zoom app because some of our members, aren't here in Monroe. But we're having an in-person men's meeting this coming Monday evening to discuss ramping up the homeless care packages specifically, because we've had some different brethren who've been very interested in contributing. We've had a lot of people to help out with that. So I want to start doing more of that and ramping it up some. So if you're interested in coming to the men's meeting or Skyping in or getting on the Zoom app, we will have it live on Zoom. Brother Josh Shepard from Texas gets in on Zoom, so we'll have it live. So if you want to get on Zoom, or if you're here in Monroe, if you want to attend, you're more than welcome to. We'll be mostly focused on the care packages and doing more of those. Also, recently we launched our podcast. Highways of Home now has a podcast, which is available on, what is the name of our podcast app? Give me a second, I'll tell you. Podbean. We have a website on Podbean, which so our podcast is available on Podbean, and we've applied to Spotify, and we'll be applying to Apple Podcasts probably today or tomorrow. So it'll be available on those platforms as well. Brother Josh Shephard's launched the first episode last Saturday, and he's going to start doing, I think what he told me was an episode every other Saturday or like twice a month. So we'll post links to those on the Facebook page. But please go on the Podbean website and subscribe to that and follow us on there. Brother Josh has a lot of good things to say. And the men's meeting, please Skype in, or not Skype, but Zoom into the men's meeting, or come and attend if you're here in Monroe, or just if you want to help in general. Brother Roger Duke has given a lot of snacks and different things that we needed for the packages. Brother Dwight Beachy and his wife donated some money. I could name people, and a lot of people have helped. Brother Abraham and Sister Faith and them have donated some money. My dad has donated some money, Brother Doyle, Brother Josh. There's been a lot of people, so if I'm missing you, then please forgive me, but we've had a lot of help. And our hope is to start doing about 24 of these a month, which is what we've been doing. But I'd like to start doing 48, doubling it up and doing a little bit more. And also, my wife and I were discussing today possibly setting an event where we have a live singing or some ministry, or maybe even like a soup setup for the homeless where they can come get a hot meal. We don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but we want to do something more. We want to figure out something we can do to sort of expand and get involved in more. We're doing it with the podcast. We're doing it with the care packages. But, you're always welcome to be a part of what we're doing. We're trying to help the needy. We're trying to spread the gospel. We do still distribute and make available my granddad, Reverend Pike's literature. We have it in multiple languages, so please let us know if you want some tracts to pass out or some sermon booklets. what language you speak or how many you need, you know, what subject you'd like them on. We can help with any of that. We don't charge anything. Everything's free of charge. But I just wanted to mention that so that people know kind of where we're at and what we're working on. So the men's meeting is going to be Monday evening. Please join us or come in on Zoom if you'd like to. You can reach out to us in a message after this broadcast if you need some information.
Is Podbean, is that like Podbean.com or something?
Well, Podbean is an app, but when you set up an account on Podbean for a podcast, you do get sort of like a proxy website through them. So like ours is Highways of
So I
Home.
mean, if I want to go listen to it, I got to go get the app from the App Store?
Either that, or you have to click a link to it and listen to it through the web browser.
Okay.
Like if you click the link on the Facebook page, our website is,
okay.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
highwaysofhome.podbean.com is the website, but also the app.
I do want to say that I was so tickled and honored to be able to do what I have done with Christian, with the videos with Brother George especially, you know, because
That's been really such a great thing.
I think we have 120-ish videos,
Yeah.
not all full sermons.
How many of those are sermons? About 80 or 90 of them?
I don't know. I was thinking 60, 70, maybe 70 or so. I'm not really sure. It might be 80 or 90. I don't really know. But Brother George actually took tons of video, but it just, you know, it's scattered or whatever, as you would say, you know. But that wasn't his fault. He definitely tried to have that preserved. But there's video of him going into all the world, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some great times where he's over at the Holy Lands talking. And the Philippines were a monumental crusade to watch. You know, that was a huge thing. The only time I have ever seen a preacher give money to the people in a congregation.
Yeah, tell us that story. I
wasn't there. Your dad was there.
But you know what happened, right?
Well, I watched it. I know a little bit about it, yeah. Somehow or another, you might know it better than I do, the ministers that from the Philippines had taken up money from the people, and they weren't doing right about it or something. And Brother George didn't know anything about it. When Brother Pike found out about it, he went and got what he could of it back. And then everybody that went on the whole crusade, which I don't know how many people that was, like 40 people or something from over here, 30 people.
It was a lot, yeah.
Yeah, they all agreed to, they wanted to. Brother George asked them to all give money to these people to give the money back to them that they'd given, and then help the people anyway. And in fact, any place that I ever went with Brother George, even if it was a tour to the Holy Lands, man, he was going to find somebody down and out somewhere to do something for. It was incredible.
I've heard so many stories.
It inspires me because I wouldn't have thought like that. I never would have been nature to do that. But seeing him, you know, changed my way of thinking. Even like I was telling you about in Atlanta, I used to be involved with the ministry some, and we were trying to contact them back with this kind of stuff because we do this kind of stuff, and we'd pray with people and give them literature. And a lot of times, you know, you think, well, I'm not getting anywhere. It's not doing any good. But then just one person here or two people there come off the streets, get off of drugs, go into rehab and change. And sometimes become preachers or something, you know, so it's
well, I think about Uncle Tim, you know, he passed away, of course, but Aunt Dale met him through a prison reform program, ended up marrying him, and he became a great minister and a wonderful person, and I guess, you know, some people might get offended at me saying this, but probably the best thing that ever happened to her. You know, he treated her like a queen as long as they were together. She had so many bad experiences in life, you know, she had so many rough things that she went through, and I didn't know Uncle Tim until later on in life. I was a teenager, of course, a late teenager by the time that I met him. And I thought it was strange because my aunt was getting remarried. It was unusual. But I just remember, you know, he adored her.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about, like,
that's awesome.
The way that, like, Uncle Myron has treated Aunt Gracie, just loved her and just treated her so well. And I think about the way that God has put people in our family, like, you've been so much a part of the family that you're closer to me than people who are in the family. You know, you're basically one of us. You know what I mean? And the Lord has
most of the family does say that.
And I believe that. You know, the Lord has sent us such tremendous people like yourself just to help us out specifically. And I think Papa would be so happy that God sent people like that to help us in our causes, you know?
He was the best. He was the greatest that I ever met, you know?
Yeah, I just thought about Tim because of the prison thing. You know, his whole life was in shambles. And he was able to really get himself turned around and get off drugs, you know, and inspiring story.
Yeah, it is. That's awesome. It sure is.
Well, that's really all the specific questions I had. I don't know if the audience had any. We've been going now. It's getting close to 8 o'clock. But
really? Okay.
yeah, I did want to mention, one more time to anybody who's just tuned in. We are doing more homeless care packages. We need all the help we can get on that.
You do have tracks in them too.
We do. Let me open one up for.
Yeah, even got it like $5. And,
yeah, I'll open one up for everybody so they can try to see.
Too, and I think gloves and.
Yeah, we got several
blankets.
things.
Yeah.
As you know, they come in these nice book bags. We order the book bags in bulk, and what we put in these, we have toothbrushes, we have toothpaste, and we have a bar of soap, and some of this stuff is in individual bags so that once they use it, they have a clean place to put it back into. And that's in the front pocket. And then when you open them up, we got in here a brand new pair of gloves, warm gloves. We got 2 pairs of warm socks. We got miscellaneous snacks. Every package is a little bit different depending on what gets donated. This one has a chewy yogurt bar and Cracker Jack. Some different kind of snacks and things. And each one of them has a rolled up fleece blanket.
That's awesome.
Something to keep them warm. They have 3 bottles of water, a deodorant, a hand sanitizer, and some canned food like fruit, Vienna sausages, and ravioli. So it's just kind of a combination of food, water, and daily items they need. And then they each have a bag that has 3 to 4 gospel tracts and a $5 gift card to Walmart. And so, it's not much, but it's something that we can do to where they can at least have enough to make it through a couple of days, So that's what each care package has in it. Like I said, we haven't figured these up to the dollar, but they probably come out to 25 to 30 bucks a piece, if I had to just guess it. But that's kind of what we're doing to anybody who didn't know. And so far, we've passed out over 30 of those, and we just started. And we've already got quite a few more ready, and then as you can see, quite a few more in the making. So we're ordering the book bags in packs of 24, and we're doing that about once a month right now. So we're putting out about 24 new ones a month, but we'd like to ramp that up. And actually, Brother Doyle had a contact in Atlanta, and one of my cousins said they had a contact in Athens, so we're hoping to reach out to some people who are also involved in homeless ministry, and maybe being able to connect with them and unify with them to get even more done. And my wife had mentioned that she would want to set an event at some point where we can actually set up like tables and do hot plates for them, or just something, just anything we could do. So we don't have anything specifically planned, but we're going to do something come summertime, some kind of outdoor events. So if you want to be involved in that, it's a great ministry. We're literally
need a vision.
Yeah, we're giving
to
we're giving to people who had nothing, and we're trying to reach out to them. We're giving them some gospel literature, hopefully to plant some spiritual seeds in their mind, which is really what they need. Because if these people could get their minds straightened out, their whole life would get straightened out. The last video that we released, which is still flagged on Facebook, but you can watch it on the YouTube channel, is about having a vision. The video is called I don't remember what it's called now, but it's the one I just put out. And the whole subject of the video is that people need some way to exercise themselves spiritually. You need to have something that's just incorporated into your everyday life that keeps your thoughts on God. This is the issue I have with Sunday religion, is that people come and they get what they think is spiritually minded for 2 hours, and then they go back to a world of debauchery and they wonder where all the problems are coming in. But Christianity is not just like something that you just do once a week or just some like club that you join, but it's a whole lifestyle. It's a whole way of thinking. To be a Christian is to be Christ-like, and to be Christ-like is to be about the Father's business all the time. The Bible says that Jesus went about doing good, healing all that were oppressed of the devil. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do good. We're trying to go about doing good. We're trying to find people that have a need and meet that need to the best of our ability. So we're so happy for anybody who wants to lock arms with us and help with that. So did you have any closing comments or anything else?
Well, one thing that, while you were saying that, it reminded me of this. Look how many doors have closed, in the last while. Because, like with your dad, for instance, he spent many times going in Mexico. Man, they would go to Mexico, and especially Christmas, they were giving bikes to kids, and it was very easy to go into Mexico. You didn't feel threatened and stuff like that, it was okay, and that's not like that now. The cartels and the different things going on, it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
And just like the prison ministry, the COVID thing has shut that down. The COVID thing has shut so many things down. So you see the doors closing, just like with this stuff with America now, with the banning of free speech, basically, is what it's closing in on. You see the doors closing. So that certainly tells you how late it is, and it certainly tells you that we definitely need a vision for the Lord. If we don't have a vision for the Lord, we need to do something, do whatever we can do,
That's what we're trying to do. You know, that's what Highways of Home Ministries is all about. You know, we don't have a ministry. We took an organization, started a bank account, and slapped the name Highways of Home because you got to do something. You have to be organized. But that's nothing to us. That name means nothing. That organization means nothing. That's just a medium through which we try to bless people. The ministry is the ministry of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's the only ministry there ever was, and that's the one that we believe in, and that's the one we want to be a part of. So we thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the broadcast. We'll be live again next month with another guest, and may the Lord richly bless you.